Very well, a quick look at what we have on our local dailies. On the front page of the Star newspaper, Renegades lining up to topple Raila. Renegades lining up to topple Raila. A group led by Kidero, that is former Governor Evans Kidero, aims to entrench new political order. He's under pressure to pave way for new generation of leaders. That is Raila Odinga. He's under pressure to pave way for new generation of leaders. And here we have got Evans Kidero, David Ochieng of MDG, Nicholas Gumbo, Dalmas Otieno, and Okoth Bado, who is just an immediate former governor of Migori County. And yes, Kenyan in US accused of killing 22 old women. One of the 22 murder trials of a Kenyan accused of killing and stealing from elderly women in North Texas took off on Monday in Dallas, US. That is Billy Chimirmir, who is 49 years old, from Eldama Ravine, will face charges for the murder of Mary Brooks, one of the women he's accused of killing between 2016 and 2018. Relief after KRA exempts fuel from inflation tax. The price of fuel will not go up just for now after KRA spared a 6.3% inflation adjustment. 953.02 per 1,000 liters, and kerosene at 11,370.98 cents. There you have it. Government lifts ban on GMO after 10 years, giving you details here. That is according to the memo, which was according to the 3rd October, the ban has been lifted in accordance with the recommendation of the task force to review matters relating to genetically modified foods and food safety. Only South Africa is growing GM maize on commercial basis. That is, as far as that's concerned, of course, the cabinet had their meeting yesterday. U.S. trial of Kenyan accused of killing 22 women begins in the U.S. 2 teenagers killed themselves with fathers' guns in city. This has actually happened in a span of 1 week, and now is raising concern with the gun safety to the licensed firearm holders in the country. 5 arrested for allegedly spiking drinks, stealing cash, 500,000 shillings withdrawn from victim's account, and his mobile phones stolen. The victim told police that he had gone to the club somewhere in Kilimani, not Kilimani rather. That is, they were accused of stealing and stupefying and stealing from a reveler at a popular club along the Eastern Bypass, that is in Kiambu County, not Kilimani. The 5, including 4 women, are alleged to have spiked the drink of their target with a sedative. Now, police said that the arrest followed 2 weeks of investigations. Detectives recovered 8 mobile phones from the suspects. So this is what happened. The gentleman went, on September 15th at around 8 p.m. to have a drink when he met a woman, and they dined together. Then shortly after, the woman invited 3 women, friends, to join them as they continue to drink. And that's what happened. Thereafter, the gentleman said that he found himself in his car the following day all alone, and the victim told police that he lost 500,000 shillings, 2 mobile phones worth 90,000 shillings, and 3 ATM cards. Did you know that stupefying and spiking someone's drink that's a felony and carries a maximum sentence of life imprisonment? Life. All right. And finally, new campaign to dethrone Raila as Nyanza Supreme. This is something that we're going to be discussing later on in the program. So this one includes former leaders and governors such as East Africa Community CAS Ken Obura and Ugenya MP David Ochieng, others as former MPs Martin Ogindo of Rangwe, Fred Out of Kisumu, Sylvans Osele of Kabondo Kasipul, Nicholas Gumbo Rarieda, and former governors Jack Ranguma and Okoth Bado. Now, some members say that they're still forming to have a strong party that will be used to push Raila and the Odingaism out of the dominance of Luo Nyanza. How that is going to happen will be an interesting development as far as that is concerned. All right, Steph.
Yes, with me here is People Daily. Let's take a look at how the front page looks like, and we have Wanga on spot over President Ruto's Nyanza tour. This is the governor of Homa Bay County, and we saw the story yesterday, whereby the governor, together with other elected leaders, including her deputy and senator, all failed to attend the meeting where the president was there at AIC Church in Homa Bay County, and she has gotten a lot of negative feedback from people, and she says that she has nothing against the president. She was just out of the county. Some other news still on the front page is that alarms as youth firearms in suicide mission, just as Victor has mentioned in his paper. We have 13 years, which is the age of a boy who shot himself using his father's pistol on Sunday. And 21 is the age of youth who killed himself with a gun in Gigiri, Nairobi, when nominated MP Sam Kok's son shot himself dead with father's gun. So this is also a story making news in People Daily. Also, queries of a mystery cash paid to NSSF. The Auditor General raises questions about unexplained 266 million returned to pensions funds account. That is on Business News. And still, experts warn against thieves after Gachagua, that is the deputy president, and CBK dollars draw. We have this on page 6. So the financial analyst warned yesterday that the lack of clear communication policy between the presidency and the government institutions could cause panic in the markets. Their concerns follow Deputy President's comments about the forex crisis, which led to a rebuttal from the Central Bank of Kenya. The central bank said after liberalization of the foreign exchange market in the 1990s, all foreign exchange for private transactions are obtained from commercial banks. Going back to the front page, the main read is "You can now grow GMOs," and this is the story across all papers. And they have given some statistics here, saying while GMO foods will ease hunger pains for many vulnerable Kenyans, there is a risk of exposing them to illnesses like cancer. And these are the statistics. 3.5 million number of Kenyans facing acute hunger, an increase from 3.1 million in April. And 11 million shortfall. There's an 11 million shortfall between number of bags of maize grown in Kenya annually and what the country actually consumes. In 2019, when the cabinet approved commercial farming of genetically enhanced cotton hybrids in Kenya, and 1.8 million number of bags of maize farmers can produce by February if the government approves growing of GM maize. So those are some of the stories in the headline. There's also more here. No COVID job, no salary for state officers. Well, all civil servants who were against COVID-19 jobs have suffered a major setback after the Employment and Labor Relations Court declined their bid to stop the state from the mandatory vaccination, while dismissing a suit by members of the Kenya Catholic Doctors Association. Justice James Rika said it is unlawful for any public officers' employers to stop their salaries and allowances for those who refuse the vaccine jab. And the judge continued said that the public officers mandatory vaccination directive by the government of Kenya, which was issued on August 23rd last year by the head of public service, John Kinyua, does not amount to human medical experimentation. And lastly, on this, I would want to highlight One more story where 43 bars are to be closed down due to noise, and this follows a complaint by Kenyan blogger Robert Alai some few days back, who sought for regulations of entertainment joints in Kileleshwa. So about 43 entertainment joints in Nairobi will be closed down for noise pollution. And the Nairobi City County Alcoholic Drinks Control and Licensing Board has commenced the revocation of licenses of noise entertainment joints in accordance with the Nairobi City County Alcoholic Drinks Control and Licensing Act 2014, Section 21(1) and Section 35(3). So those are some of the stories in People's Daily. Doreen.
All right, Raila versus Ruto, D-Day in battle for Parliament, and as you've already said, that today is the first official sitting for both houses, National Assembly and Senate, and what is being expected is just that major clash in Parliament, particularly National Assembly, over who takes the majority slot. This is even as both coalitions still insist that they carry the day when it comes to that position of majority leader. But just going by what we have here, this is a letter that was drafted by the Registrar of Political Parties and the Ritu, dated September 7th, to the acting clerk of the National Assembly, where she noted in that letter that 26 political parties that signed the Azimio Coalition Agreement on April 21st got 185 members of parliament, and the Kenya Kwanza got 164. But also what is largely coming out, particularly as per Article 108, Section 2 of the Constitution, is that a person who is to be the leader of majority, this needs to be the leader of the National Assembly from the largest party or the largest coalition of parties. Now, what is being profiled is that Azimio is actually a coalition party and not a coalition of parties. And so what they're saying is that Azimio only fronted one candidate, which was the president, whereas these other parties inside were independent parties inside a larger faction. So we wait to see how all this will play out, even as all eyes will be on the Speaker of National Assembly, that is Moses Wetangula, to see how he will determine on this matter and actually who at the end of the day will carry the day when it comes to having the majority of the numbers in the National Assembly. Away from that, also to one of those stories that is really making headlines, that is on the matter of GMO, where obviously, as rightfully put, the cabinet lifted that ban yesterday, and this is after 10 years of that ban being in effect. Also, again, some of those issues that were coming out were the health concerns as in respect to GMOs, as well as the environmental conservation sustainability. But largely what also informed that fact is because of the issues that we've been grappling with as a country, that is the issue of food security. So this is just some of those issues that are set to be addressed by the lifting of that ban. And also, fuel now exempted from new KRA taxes, and even as that is happening, the excess duty on some of those range of goods will include beer, bottled water, juice, sweets, and also cigarettes. In fact, this is a conversation that we'll be having later on to just look at the impact of taxes on some of these goods, particularly cigarettes, and to try and see how this, in essence, reduces the intake or the use of some of these products. So then this is supposed to be taking effect. I think this will be this month, in line with the average annual inflation, and this is set to be an increase by 6.3%. So these are just some of those goods that you expect to, perhaps the prices to go high because of that increase in that tax. And lastly, Naivasha troubled as Mombasa gains in fight for port businesses. This port businesses, initially were in Mombasa County, but in 2019, the former president transferred those operations to Naivasha Dry Port. But we have seen the current president, that is Dr. Ruto, really returning back the operations to Mombasa. So depending on who you ask, the conversations will be different. Going by what is being captured in this particular article is that residents of Mombasa are now lauding the move as these businesses have gone back to as how they were. But also the question being put forth is that, was it indeed a wise move by the former president to have moved, those operations from Mombasa to Naivasha in 2019, as it were? Regina.
Now let's start off with stories that are making headlines across the world as captured by this particular daily that I have, and we're looking at a runoff in Brazil. That is after the two top presidential candidates there, that is Lula and Bolsonaro failed to get the requisite support for either or to clinch the top seat. Back home within West Africa is at a delegation has been sent, a 15-man delegation has been sent to Burkina Faso, that is Ouagadougou, there to just have a conversation in regard to the coup and when the country is set to have elections. They have proposed 2024. There's been a spillover of coups, especially in the western region of Africa. And that is probably why that if you have been on Twitter, the comment by a general from neighboring Uganda, who happens to be also the son to Museveni, when he said that he would capture Nairobi in 2 weeks, well, it went viral. And I was looking at some political analysts who were just asking why then would someone text something such as that on Twitter at a time when Africa, especially the western region, western side of Africa is witnessing a lot of coups. And you can catch up with that on Twitter if you're on that particular platform. Now away from matters world news, taking you back home, the front page here is totally focused on the move by government to lift the ban on GMOs there as its quest to deal with matters of food security at a time where over 20 counties, the residents there are staring at starvation owing to drought there. Then also there's a pullout here that is quite detailed in regard to the consequences of the removal of the fuel or the petroleum subsidy there, that show a sharp increase in the cost of fuel last month. In the next less than 10 days or so, we're going to have another fuel review. And Kenyans alike, as well as independent oil marketers, have raised an issue in regard to the high global fuel prices there, with KRA yesterday there just opting to exempt imposing the inflationary excise duty on fuel and petroleum products to try and stem the high cost of living that is getting out of hand for a majority of Kenyans. So there's a fully fleshed out article in regard to the fuel subsidy and the scarred industry it left behind. Talking about what is going to be happening this afternoon from 2 p.m. when Parliament resumes there, and the first order of business being to discuss the President's, or rather debate the President's speech that he delivered in his maiden speech last week of September there. Litmus test as Wetangula faces over majority ruling. There's been a question of who owns the numbers in Parliament, with Azimio legally having 173 members of Parliament and Kenya Kwanza boasting of 180 after the Kenya Kwanza team raided their rebels camp there. We'll be keeping tabs on that, with more so getting reactions in regard to the GMO issue. What are farmers saying in various parts of the country? We have had the issue of GMOs, especially when it comes to cotton, maize and such, a debate that did not just start yesterday. This we have a whole timeline there that dates all over in the year 2000 there, when Kenya signed Cartagena Protocol on biosafety, and it ratified it in 2003, and the Protocol on Biosafety is a supplementary agreement to the Convention on Biological Diversity. We'll be looking at this particular development and the impact it will have overall on the agriculture value chain. An interesting read also with an interesting header, loose cannon question, Gachagua and his many gaffes. Well, so much has been said about the Deputy President, that is Rigathi Gachagua, who is fondly referred to as Rigiji. And in some human interest thought is that he said in an interview with one of the media houses that he has directed his sons to find the lady who came up with Rigiji, and she's bound to get a cash reward. This is a header here on this particular daily. You might want to have a look at it. Then exams, class grade 6 as well as Form 4 and Class 8 on course. while stakeholders within the education system, as quoted by this particular article, this is none other than former higher education boss Ezra Maritim, who says the implementation of CBC is a case of putting the cart before the horse. There's been a lot of debate pre-election with a majority of Kenyans, or rather section of Kenyans, saying that we need to overhaul the CBC. But once government was sworn in, it was clear that CBC is here to stay, and a task force has been set up to ensure that as CBC stays, it remains relevant and it is as seamless as possible, transiting from 844 system to CBC. Well, that puts a cap on matters what we have on the daily. We want to leave in the able hands of my colleagues on the other side of the studio, and we're going to be having several conversations in regard to stories that have been making headlines in as far as matters current affairs are concerned. On my end is I wish you a pleasant viewing ahead.
Regina. So Rigiji says, the deputy says that his sons to look for why his sons?
I mean, I don't think that is a preserve of the deputy president to go looking for the person who came up with his nickname. So I think he looked at the issue of it would be easier for his son to get the lady than it is for him and his resources. And as far as the deputy president's office is concerned, well,
I think it should be.
What gets me is that she will actually be rewarded. In fact, she said that this would be a good move for that lady or the lady to even see how, you know, she can improve her life, maybe start a business or something.
True, and the lady was already found because she was interviewed by one media house, so I think the work for the sons is quite easy because she's already known.
Just imagine how her lucky star just all of a sudden, you know, just by coming creativity. And yes, she is.
Somebody said that in whatever you do, give it your best shot, because that is what God will use to expose you. So if you're good at giving nicknames, just give the best.
Go all the way.
Well, now this puts actually more emphasis on content creation in an age where we are seeing influencers actually, you know, driving traffic for products and services that they are advertising. I think this is a new age, and that's the beauty of online, or rather technology as it is, and this is where we find ourselves.
Very true.
All right. I see Dr. Ratish already here. Doctor.
Hiya.
Karibu.